today I'm going to be talking about some books that I've been reading recently. So I had big plans for February and March and just 2023 for making videos this year, but unfortunately a couple weeks ago my grandfather passed. Now it has been hard, it is hard, it will be hard, but he was 96 years old and he is in heaven now, which we are rejoicing about, and we're just mourning for ourselves here on earth. So your prayers are appreciated for my family, especially my grandma, who is 90 and now has to spend her days without her. And they were married for 66 years, which I just think is a beautiful testimony to what happens when you make Christ the center of your marriage. So just pray for her. But I am back and ready to share with you some amazing books that I have read recently. So the first book that I have on here, the majority of which are audiobooks, which if you watched my last video is the same. I have been loving audiobooks on my commute this year. So the first one is Dad is Fat by Jim Gaffigan. I used to really love Jim Gaffigan and I still really like him. This book though, I was not that thrilled about. It was just like, okay, I thought that it was going to be funnier than it was. Previously, I read Jerry Seinfeld's book and it was just a bunch of his bits that read like quickly were really hilarious. This was more of like a novel, I felt, and kind of like an autobiography. So it was okay. If you like Jim Gaffigan, then you might like it, but it just wasn't my favorite. The next book that I have is Murder at the Book Club by Betsy Reevely. I give this a 3-star review. I don't even know how I found this book. I think it was just like one of the available nows on Libby for an audiobook. It was fine. It's another one of those books where it's like, okay, you can leave out like the graphic sexual like ideas or scenes. It wasn't like overly sexual. Like I've definitely read worse books where I'm like, whoa, I need to put this down. But it just wasn't the best. I thought that it was going to be really cute. It's a book club where everybody, you know, is meeting together to talk about the books that they've been reading, just a group of girls. But there's just a lot of drama and cattiness, and I was like, I'm over this. So I finished it because it was an audiobook, so it was rather quick, but would I recommend it to you? Definitely not. The next book that I have is by Christian Toto, and it is Virtue Bombs: How Hollywood Got Woke and Lost Its Soul. I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. It's not that popular. It has 72 ratings and 9 reviews on here. I really appreciated it. It essentially is, like the title says, it talks about how Hollywood went woke and how there are very few filmmakers and actors that are willing to stand up against the woke leftist mob. And Christian Toto goes into how he is trying to do that and how the actors that do try to do that without a big following, like they don't get roles or they lose a role that they had. And I think that it's just a really important book for us to read in this time period because we live in a world of influencers, whether they're online, social media, or in Hollywood. And these people really do have a big impact on our lives and our kids' lives. So it's important to see where their ideas are coming from and how we can kind of, you know, rally behind the people that are trying to push the morals that we still have. Because I mean, that's what's going to save America. You know, Jesus is going to save America, but also being able to support these people that are in the spotlight, that do want to support conservative Judeo-Christian values. Those are the people that we should be rallying behind. I think he talks about a lot is the Oscars. The Oscars just passed not too long ago, and the Oscars have turned from just being a way of supporting good movie making and great acting into a way for people to just pander to the woke mob and just talk about their own woke ideologies when it's like, okay, I don't even watch the Oscars anymore because it's not about the movies anymore. He goes into talking about like war movies and how once they used to be a way for Americans to feel patriotic and pride in their country, and now it's like you cannot make a movie and expect it to be backed by sponsors and investors if you do not create the military or create them out to be evil. You know, like they once were good and I still think are good and need to be praised, not looked down upon. The next book that I read was The Dollmaker of Krakow by R.M. Romero. I give it a 4-star review. I love the last name Romero, obviously, for the author. The description is, Carolina is a living doll whose king and queen have been overthrown, but when a strange wind spirits her away from the land of the dolls, she finds herself in Krakow, Poland, in the company of the dollmaker, a man with an unusual power and a marked past. So it's a story about World War II. This doll is in the midst of World War II in Poland, and it kind of parallels like a war that's going on with rats in her own fantasy land called the Land of the Dolls. This book was incredible, like truly very well written. I appreciated the story. There were some like plot points that were missing and stories about, or just information missing about like the magic within the world and the doll maker that becomes like a magician. So that's why I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. One thing that I want to note is like, I guess I didn't realize that it was going to be so heavy. Like, obviously all World War II books are tragic in some sense. This is definitely one of the ones where it's like, whoa, like I should have gone into it knowing that I was going to be crying and tearing up and really just hearing the tragic story of World War II. For some reason I thought like, well, it's dolls and it's magic, it's not going to be that intense. It definitely is. Next book that I read was the Dave Ramsey Baby Steps Millionaires. I gave this a 4-star review. The subtitle is How Ordinary People Built Extraordinary Wealth and How You Can Too. The main reason that I wanted this book, and I actually bought it for my husband for Christmas this past year, it's because of the millionaire study that Dave Ramsey did. That is in this book. And those stats and just like graphs are really interesting to look at because it shows how millionaires, everyday millionaires, do not live like we imagine the lowly people that like we imagine millionaires to live. There's a big difference between millionaire and billionaire, and everyday millionaires do not overspend or spend money that they don't have. They live average lifestyles while taking good care of their money. So it was a good book. There's a lot of information in here that's, I think, repetitive from the last book that he published and the same information that he puts out in his podcast and on YouTube. But the millionaire study at the end is definitely worth looking at. Next book that I read, this was another one that I just found randomly on Libby. This is called The Wretched Water Park by Kiersten White, and it's a part of the Sinister Summer books. I gave this a 4 out of 5 star review on Goodreads. If you want to follow my Goodreads, by the way, or befriend me, then I will leave it linked down below. I really enjoyed this book. Essentially, it's a brother, well, I was going to say a brother and sister, but it's a brother and 2 sisters, kind of like the Series of Unfortunate Events. And the description actually says that it's similar to Scooby-Doo and Series of Unfortunate Events, so definitely like that. And basically, it's this trio of siblings that get sucked into this like weird aunt's house, and there's a lot of questions that are left unanswered because it is a series that I'm hoping to continue once Libby releases the books to me. And I did really enjoy it, and this trio gets sucked into this weird water park where a man goes missing who's eventually found, and there's just kind of eerie things about the water park. And the next book is, I think it's called Vampiric Vacation, and it's just fun. It's fantasy, it's a light read, easy, and I just thought that it was cool. One of those like kind of cozy, creepy books. And it's a middle grade, so nothing too crazy going on there. The next book that I read, speaking of Series of Unfortunate Events, is The Bad Beginning by Lemony Snicket. I used to love Series of Unfortunate Events. I read every single one of them when I was in middle school, and I saw them on Libby with the audiobook and thought I might as well read these again. I gave it a 5-star review. The first one is so short. I think it's like a 3-hour listen. So I listened to it very quickly on my commute, and it's just phenomenal. Like, the writing style that Lemony Snicket has is just timeless. And I think that I used to look at these books and think, well, I read them in middle school, I never have to read them again, or they're young books. But as an adult, I still can totally appreciate his writing style, the way that he can be so concise, but also so descriptive all at once. It's just remarkable. If you have never read them, you definitely need to read them. I think that there's 13. I'm hoping to go through all of them again very, very soon. And if you have read them, this is your sign to pick them up again, because again, as an adult, I think that there is a newfound appreciation for them. Next book that I read was Uncommon Criminals by Ally Carter. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. This is a young adult book, which I have not read a young adult in a very, very long time. But Ally Carter is the author of the I'd Tell You I Love You and Then I'd Have to Kill You spy book series, which I read in high school and adored. This book series is all about art thieves, and this one takes place all over the world, but it takes place in Monaco, which is very cool. And there's also a lot of like Egyptian mythology. It's just a cool book that makes you want to be an adventurer and be on the coast of the Mediterranean with them. And there's not any like crazy romance, which I think is a good thing for like girls and boys to read alike. And it's not one of those young adult books where if your parents, or if you were parents and you were to catch your child reading this and you would be like, holy smokes, like how could this be passed as young adult and not adult? I would say it's definitely like very clean. I think that there's 2 kisses within the book in total. So if you have a young adult or teen at home, I definitely recommend this. Of course, they're thieves. So, there's some morals that are being pushed to the wayside. But I think that if you are, having conversations with your kids, I don't think that they're going to take this book and, see it as an example to follow. I think that it's just a fun one to read. Then the very last book that I read was Murder on the Orient Express, or listened to, and I listened to it on Libby, performed by Dan Stevens, who I absolutely adore. He plays Matthew in Downton Abbey, and his ability to create different voices was remarkable. So one complaint that I've kind of always had about Agatha Christie's books is that she has so many characters that I struggle to keep up with who the characters are. And I'm like, who is this person that she just mentioned? And then she starts to describe them again. And I'm like, oh, I think I remember her talking about them at the beginning of the book, but am I mixing up the wires with this other person? It's difficult. But listening to it on audiobook was much easier to track. Again, specifically with Dan Stevens picking up different accents and different tones for like an American woman versus a British woman. He did a phenomenal job on that. I really loved this book. I also loved the movie. I just love Agatha Christie. Again, she's like that cozy murder mystery type writer. So anytime I listen to or read her books, I just feel cozy and like I'm back in the good old days. And it just makes me want to sit by a fire with a cup of coffee. So definitely a must read, 5 out of 5 stars. And I'm excited to read another one of her books very soon. So that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing to this channel if you are interested in watching more book videos from me very soon from a Christian conservative perspective. I just reached over 600 subscribers, which is very exciting. So thank you guys so much for supporting me. If you have a channel that you would like me to support, then drop it down below and I would love to share the love with you as well. So love you guys. Thank you again for prayers. If you would like to lift them up for my family. My grandpa was just an amazing Christian man. He truly lived out Christ's love for others. And the fact that we know that he is in heaven is just such a joy. And if you have lost someone close to you, then I hope and pray that this brings peace and comfort to you. Especially, if that person is a Christian. We will see them one day. We are given the hope of heaven through Jesus Christ. I hope that you all had a wonderful Easter. That death on the cross and resurrection again is why we have the hope of heaven through Jesus Christ. So I hope that that's all encouraging to you guys. And you are so encouraging to me for watching this video and subscribing if you would like to. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.